Secretary, would you call the roll?
Member Mitchell?
Here.
Member Snyder?
Here.
Member Mason?
Here.
Member Cubine?
Here.
Member DeLong?
Here.
We have a quorum. Next item would be consider approval of the minutes for September 30th, 2022 special board meeting. We have two, if everyone's had a chance, we've got two corrections. First correction would be to correct the attendees for that meeting. Take out Vint. Do we have a motion to make that correction?
So moved. Second.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Change adopted. Second change would be to correct the date.
The time.
September 30th.
Right.
Yeah.
The
The
September.
time. The time.
The time, yeah.
Yeah. It was 11:30 in the morning.
Morning.
So,
Yes.
yeah.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Mr. Chairman, I would approve, I would make a motion, we approve the minutes as of the September 30th, 2022 special board meeting as amended.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Minutes adopted. Mr. Snyder?
Yes, I'd also, do we need to do the, did we do both sets of minutes, or did we do, Kathy, do we have both sets of minutes?
First motion was just for the changes. so
Right.
Okay.
you need a
All right,
motion
let me go ahead and make a motion as well to approve the minutes for the September 20th, 2022 board meeting as submitted.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed?
Aye.
Minutes adopted, so we've approved both minutes. Mr. Snyder?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion that we go into closed session pursuant to KRS 618101C to discuss pending or proposed litigation regarding an employment matter.
Do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
We're going into closed session. motion to come out of closed session? Do we have a second? Second. We have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Mr. Snyder?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to direct council to proceed as directed in closed session.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion's adopted. Next item, financials. Consider accepting financials for the month ending September 30th, 2022. Mr. Denton?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Cuba. Board members, good evening. If you would like, starting on page 23 of your board packet, I just want to briefly go over what we look like financially through the first 3 months, the first quarter of this 2023 fiscal year that ends in June of next year. Looking at page 23, this is a statement of net position. You can see our assets equals our liability plus our net position. Both of those at approximately $218.4 million. One thing to point out there that I think is worth noting, as you know and the community knows, we have a lot of beneficial capital projects in play. On line 45, you can see year over year, we're up approximately $10.8 million. That is the investment in capital assets that is outpacing our annual depreciation. So the money being generated from our customers, the net revenue, that's revenue over expenses, being put back into assets that will provide safe and reliable services is a good sign. So that's where we are on balance sheet through this as of September 30th. I'd like to just talk about financial performance for a brief moment over on page 28. Page 28 of your board packet, this is our statement of revenue, expenses, and change in net position. If you're looking at one financial statement to get a snapshot of the whole company's performance, you can see for the first 3 months, page 28, looking at the third line, you'll notice that we're a little above our budget to actual revenue and a little above last year whenever you back out the electric rebate from last year. We're up about 1.2% on revenue, and we are down below our budgeted expenses for the year, bringing our net contribution just over $4 million, which is outpacing last year and better than budget. We think those will tighten up as the year goes on, and the weather comes in, and we are a winter peaking system, so I think that comes into play as well. But overall, we're on track and in line with where we thought we would be through the first 3 months. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Hey, Jason, want to start with you?
I'm good.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions for David? Okay, if not, do we have a motion to accept the financials?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Financials are accepted. Thank you, Mr. Denton. Ms. Poe, number 3, do we have any public comment?
No, sir.
Okay, next one. Mr. Foster, departmental reports?
Yes, sir. We'll start with the Network Operations Center Director, Darren Randall.
Good evening, good evening. For the month of September, the NOC handled 2,109 phone calls, and the locators did 859 locates in September, so busy again. I checked earlier today. This is the 18th. We've already done 512 this month, so we're on course for probably even another record month in October. I don't know. So year to date, 2,261 locates across the 3 utilities is a little over 6,700. So, you know, busy as always, and just getting busier.
Are you still fully staffed?
We are, yeah.
How, I mean, in terms of workload, I know you've got a statutory deadline in terms of how many hours you have.
Yeah.
How are we doing in terms of compliance on that?
We're making it, but we're killing them. I mean, they're doing their job. They're doing it well, but it's
Are
busy.
they working a lot of overtime?
No, they're not working a lot of overtime. They work a little bit. A couple of guys work a little bit. One's restricted.
Okay.
They really
If
can't,
if it continues like this, is our solution another person, or is it just authorized overtime? Which is
you know, I'm obviously we have good folks and we want to keep them. I want to retain them. You know, in the future, do we need another person?
Probably. I mean, if construction keeps going like it is, all these fiber projects are coming in. I mean, there's just more building and more building. Just today, we got, at the same time, I think an additional 15 locates from a new company doing work setting poles and anchors down around the Capitol. You know, a whole different fiber project, probably something revolving around the Capitol. But there's just, as this federal money becomes available, everybody's jumping on that bandwagon. Everybody's starting a business. Everybody's, you know, wanting a piece of the pie, I guess, doing these projects. And that doesn't include the normal day-to-day stuff, the construction, the subdivisions we're building, the shopping centers we're building, and then the homeowner tickets. So it's pretty hectic.
And there's we don't charge any fees for any of that, right?
No, no. It's our, you know, as you mentioned, we're required by statute,
Right.
you know, to locate our utilities. But we're, you know, the bad thing is if, like one of our employees, we're up toward the end of the year and they have, you know, a huge stockpile of time that they haven't taken, so it's kind of using. The bad thing is if they take it, fine, but the tickets don't go away. You know, if there's 20 that don't get done today because they took off, when they come in, that's an additional 20 tomorrow. So there's just really no light at the end of the tunnel for them. They have to hit it hard every day.
Let me
or
ask
they're
this,
behind.
and I'll turn over, and this is just some speculation. Do we have a policy, and Nichelle's in here, isn't she? Do we have a policy, if someone comes, like they get to November and they got a bunch of time, and they say, I could really use the money, I just do not have to take the time. I'd rather just get paid for my leave and just keep working, because I could use the extra cash. Do we have a provision for that, or is it something that we even want to explore, or?
No, we do. I think Katrina keeps really close track on that, and just today mentioned, about the 1st of November, you send something out.
So people can sell their
I can't tell you the
time.
particulars, but there is it's over a certain amount, 259 hours, is it 256?
80 hours.
80 hours.
Oh, you can get paid for
And you
80.
can go over 256, so if you have more than 336, which is the 256 plus the 80, you're in danger of losing it.
Yeah.
I mean, do we need to examine, I'm just asking company-wide, do we need to examine that 80-hour policy and situation, or is it good the way it is? Or?
I don't think it would impact my department. I
Okay.
can't speak to the rest of the company. I don't know how many people bank hours or lose hours. I don't know.
It's actually pretty standard.
Yeah.
Some
You
pretty
know,
standards,
Yeah. On the locate side, I have two of those guys are pretty new. They don't hardly have any time compiled. So no, it's not a huge
I think on
deal
the
for us.
state, they don't, I think LRC buys it. On the state, I think it rolls to sick, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
They have the option to roll it over to sick as well.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Jason, you have any questions?
No? Okay, thank you.
Okay. Steve?
Okay.
Okay. Thanks,
All
Darren.
right. Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it, buddy.
Okay, next I jumped over Harvey and public information, so I will correct my error and have it already. Sorry about that.
Evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Ms. Lindsay is not able to be here tonight. I will certainly don't have her smile, but I'll do my best to let you know what we've been up to. We've been doing a lot of local events, promoting our ACP and Next Band. We were at the Manual Fest, South Frankfurt Neighborhood Association picnic, the grand opening of 2nd Street, and the Capitol Pride Festival. So we want to thank all the employees that came out to help represent FPB. We've also been working with the city and other community partners on a strategic communications plan to promote Frankfurt and Franklin County. That's part of the city's effort to boost economic development. The first step is to help them producing a series of 30-second spots that will promote the Kentucky Distilled brand featuring local residents. And then finally, we're going to hold a Customer Appreciation Day right here on October 31st. That's a Monday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. I'd like to invite you guys to come out, as well as anybody that's watching on TV at home, for some Halloween fun. We'll have some food, and you can even see SpongeBob SquarePants, who'll be here courtesy of our friends at Viacom Media Networks. So that's what we've had going on. I'm happy to answer any questions.
The board, I know it's too fast on that, but the board, I think, last month, we provided you all some additional funding.
Yes, sir.
Have you all set up something? I mean, when you're during these community events, what kind of reaction are you getting?
Each one's been a little bit different, but it's all been really positive.
I mean, do we see after we do one, and maybe Cassie or Adam could explain, after we do one of these, do we see an uptick immediately after that in terms of more people subscribing or calling, or?
I don't know if there, I can't tell you exactly how many folks have come by, but a lot of it is really more education, right? And letting folks know. And a lot of people take the document, take the material home and, look into the ACP program or check to see if their address is serviceable for an expand. I mean, I would hope that it would drive,
The reason I was asking, I was talking to a local car dealer yesterday, and he bought some ads with us, and he said he could actually measure or see that when the ads first came on, then he generated more sales.
Yeah.
And then it went back down, but after it aired, he could see activity.
Yeah, cable advertising is a great way to promote your business for sure. But I think we'll continue to do this, and it's a long game for us for sure.
Okay. Any other questions for? Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Okay,
Brent?
next will be the customer service department report. That's customer service supervisor Cassie Escom. I think that report is page 111 through 114.
Good evening, Mr. Cubine, members of the board. As Vince stated, our reports are on pages 111 to 114 of your board packet. Customer service in the month of September assisted approximately 9,915 customers through all of our different points of contact for them. The ACP is up again. It was up about 16 accounts last month from the prior month, but it continues to grow each month. And then our holds, which are payment plans that have been kind of ongoing since the pandemic, we are down to just 3 accounts that were part of the original 24-month plan when the governor implemented the pandemic protocols. So we only have 3 of those long-term ones left that were part of the original default plan, which is really good. We're happy about that. And then those average about $250 to $300 a month, which is pretty normal. And so we're sitting at around $315 for right now. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you all might have.
Just one question I had. If the lobby customers,
Yes, sir.
if you look at the payments, in September of 21, we had what, 67? And then in September 22, we had 230.
So with the reopening of the lobby in full and the loss of an employee to retirement, the decision was made to process payments through our drive-through and then all the other payment methods that we utilized during the pandemic. And all of our CSRs assist people doing that, but we don't have an in-lobby just dedicated cashier line anymore. And it actually has worked really well. People have just adopted other payment methods.
That's why I was just wondering if for some reason all of a sudden we had this surge in people coming in the lobby. I mean, and if so, why would?
No, I think we did reopen the lobby in full and do away with the curbside. So if you were to combine the curbside and walk-in over the last 2 years, this number is about average. They're just all walk-ins from now on again because we did away with the outside signage that we had. And then people, like I said, are just paying different ways. Speed pay in our portal continues to climb, the portal especially, so that's good.
Don't say anything, John, about me still writing a check.
We have a lot of that, but we have so many different ways for you to do that, Mr. Cubine.
I'm surprised you don't come down here and make it part of your day and then go to somewhere for long.
Does anybody have any other questions for Cassie?
That's the only comment I got.
That's right. Jason?
I'm good.
Okay,
Thank you all.
thank you.
Okay, next will be the telecom report with the telecom superintendent, Adam Heller.
Good evening, members of the board. The telecom report starts on page 115 of your board packet. With the first page are the customer penetrations. Everything looks pretty good there. The next page there, we had one outage for September, which is good. It was a blown fuse down in McCracken Pike, Millville area. And then trouble call was down quite a bit lower than average for this time last year. That's on the basic report. Next band report, the underground crews are completed putting the conduits in No 13 area, Disher, Bogey Lee, Northwood. Their next area they're moving to is Governor's Place, so they'll relocate over there. The overhead crews are working several places. We have 3 or 4 crews running. So we have some over the base of Bonnob Road there working in Node 18. We got some crews over on Twilight working. Or next week we're going to probably start crews working out for a long 288 backbone run from the head in out to Twilight Trail area. So that's upgrade there. They're still doing their walkout for the countywide project. So that's all I have this evening. Be happy to answer any questions.
Jason?
I'm good.
Okay. Any questions for Steve?
On page 115, what's that 500 at the?
That
top
is,
of the bottom?
so what we've done is, Mr. Snyder had asked for us to show the next band.
Okay.
So we actually added the next band on the top of those
Okay,
internet.
okay.
So hopefully the next band starts to grow and the other line gets smaller. So that's what that means. So I guess we've broke over 500 customers on that service so far.
Excellent.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
No more questions, then we will move to the electric department's report. And have Assistant Electric Superintendent Russ Carter, Chief Electrical Engineer Travis McCullough will give the electric report and the AMI report for you.
This is your first time with us, isn't it?
Yeah, in person it is, yes, sir.
Well, we need about a 45 minutes to an hour kind of overview, and then
Okay.
we'll for Q&A. Okay.
As long as it's not dancing. Thank you, Vint, for the introduction, Mr. Chair, Board, staff. The electric report starts on page 119 of your board package. You can see our SCADA numbers for the month are 24.337 for September. Page 120, we've got that broke down in our chart there. Page 121, again, those are just the outages, the causes of those outages. We had a total of 23 different outages for the month of September. And then page 122 has our longest duration of outages. For those, our top 10. I did want to bring your attention to the second one on that list. I think that was a typo. That was one customer that was roughly a 2-hour outage, but it accidentally got put in as a 20-day outage. So that time is quite a lot greater than it really is. Also, we had about 568 customers affected for the month of September with outages. So that's all I have. I'll entertain any questions.
Squirrels and birds are tough, you know.
Yeah, there are pains.
That's right.
Yeah, you get a lot of times when it gets really, really dry, they start, well, they're also getting ready for winter, but
Yeah.
when it gets really dry, the animals really start looking for water, and you'll get a lot more incidences sometimes.
Any questions? Thank you, sir. Welcome.
All right, thank you all.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Excuse me. Unfortunately, on AMI, it's kind of status quo still. Working through supply chain issues, not a whole lot of inventory coming in. I did want to update the board, though, that we have a meeting scheduled for the 25th, which I guess would be a week from today, with our project management, our commercial sales team, to try and get some answers on what's going to happen over the next 6 months. So I'm somewhat optimistic we'll start to get a little, hopefully by the November meeting, we'll have a little bit more substantial update.
Okay. Any questions? Jason? Okay. Anybody else?
All right,
Travis,
thank you.
thanks, buddy.
All right.
SEPA?
Okay, the SEPA report is on page 123 to 125 in your board package. You'll notice for the month of August that we cleared $326,000. That's August, I'm sorry. And so for the fiscal year so far, we're up a little over $2 million. So it's been a good year for SEPA so far. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Calendar year event? Calendar
That's
year.
calendar year.
Okay, that's great. Make
Did
sure.
I said fiscal.
You said
year.
fiscal, that's okay, I just wanna make
Yes,
sure.
sir, it is
Because
calendar.
I know it's different on the,
Yeah.
it's different accounting on that.
Okay, Gary, you want to do KYMEA?
Very briefly, there are a little bit of better information than before considered, like I explained to the board, the cost of coal and gas is very high. And the QIME cost went up compared to last year. But last month, compared to months before, the cost difference is going down a bit.
Really?
Yes, I remember I report to you the QME charges $28
Uh-huh.
per megawatt on the fuel, and their cost actually is $45. but that's a part of the reason there's $3 pass-through PCA to us. But the difference this month, I saw a report from that a little over 10 come down to only 5, 6. So it's still higher what they do, but hopefully they are more improved. And also because part of the reason is the month we are in is typical. We don't have a lot of load, not just us, everybody. But winter time could be January start to February, could getting worse than before. That's a typical winter time market too. So, but anyway, that's a little good indication because the more spread out, my concern eventually KYME have to pass through because they are using their cash to pay the difference. If you have any common questions.
Any questions for Gary? Jason? You good?
No, I'm good. I'm glad to hear that, though. Thanks for the update on K1, Gary.
Okay. Safety?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Safety report starts on page 127, runs through page 128. Happy to report for the month of September, no OSHA recordables. On our vehicle accidents, we did sustain one. A telecoms bucket truck actually made contact with a rock embankment. I believe actually at the outage, Adam was talking about it, McCracken Pike and Handley Lane. No employee injuries resulted. The truck did sustain some minor cosmetic damage to the toolboxes, but that's being handled by our in-house garage. And happy to answer any questions, sir.
A truck made contact with a wall.
Rock embankment, sir.
Rock
Rock embankment, sir.
Otherwise, they need to hit a wall.
If you like, sir. Yes, sir.
Any
Sounds
questions?
like my son's excuse.
Is it?
The wall has the right of way.
The wall has.
Big wins, big wins.
Vin?
No, that's it.
Okay, next we'll move to the Water Distribution Department and the Water Superintendent, Brian Moore.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Board. The Water Distribution Monthly Report is on pages 129 through 131. We installed 7 new water services. We had 4 main breaks, 2 outages, so we had a pretty good month there. Besides the normal board report, we completed a project at the National Guard for a new install. We were also completing the road repairs on Ashwood Court, Cedar Crest Court, getting that project completed. And then we're going to start a line replacement project on Freedom Drive. We've been really dry, so hopefully this dry weather won't cause us too much trouble with water main breaks. We're not seeing that right now, so keep our fingers crossed there. So, got any questions?
Any questions? Did you see, and this is a little bit off but it was on the national news one day last week, that there's parts of the Mississippi that are so dry people can actually walk across parts of.
We were talking about that. Yeah, that's unbelievable.
Memphis is seeing its lowest water levels in history.
Huge issues
Yeah.
in shipping.
Yeah.
Huge issues
Yeah.
in shipping,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
Shipping costs have more than doubled from last week.
Yeah.
Really?
yeah.
Yeah. They can't send full barges down the Mississippi anymore.
That's hard to believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Worse since '88 is what they're saying.
Yeah.
Vin, more
Thank
good
you.
news?
This is not bad. Dave Phillips is here with the reservoir report, Director of Water, Dave Phillips.
We had a construction progress meeting 8 days ago on October the 10th. We have received and approved our 13th payment request. As of that payment request, the project is 88% complete with 88% of the contract time elapsed. Completed work, the retaining wall has been completed as of last week. The temporary access road in the front has been removed. You will continue to see backfill around between the retaining wall and the tank continue. The planned work according to the contractor over the next month includes landscaping, paving, and fencing. But they are having problems getting the trees.
Really?
So we might, there hasn't been a decision made, but we might push that off to spring. Over half of the trees that they planned, they can't get.
Okay.
I mean, is there any I didn't know there was a tree shortage. I mean.
I'm reading the tea leaves, but a lot of those up there are pines.
Yeah.
I think Christmas season is coming up, and that might interfere with it. I don't know that for sure. And the contractor didn't have a reason for it.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for David? Jason? Okay.
Okay.
Then?
Last but not least will be Brandon Powers, our water treatment plant superintendent, with the report for the water treatment plant.
Good evening, everyone.
Evening.
For the month of September, the water treatment plant treated 266,158,000 gallons of water for an average of 8.87 million gallons per day. Lot 4 averaged 2,112 cubic feet per second for an average flow of 1.36 billion gallons per day. And there was 1 inch of rainfall recorded in the watershed somewhere. I don't know where it was. One right here.
Any questions for? We'll see you in a minute. You can talk chemicals with us.
Oh, that'd be a couple months.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Cuban.
Yes, sir.
There's the board chairman. We complete our departmental reports.
Thank you, sir. Action items, number 5.1, approving health plan amendment number 15. Michelle?
Good evening, Board Chair and members of the board. Staff recommends that the board consider approving Health Plan Amendment Number 15, stating that participation in the plan's pharmacy network requires the pharmacy acceptance of cost-price ACI pricing. By requiring pharmacies to accept acquisition cost index pricing, our plan pays a flat rate for prescription drugs without added fees. This ensures our pharmacy plan is receiving the best pricing and rebates. This does not directly affect our plan members. Does the board have any questions?
Is there any adjustment to the plan in terms of any pharmacies participating, or what the adjustment is there?
No, currently we have put a restriction on 2 pharmacies.
Right.
And this language is just to make sure that we have it in our plan to support that.
And so the restriction is those pharmacies that don't want to accept it, employees can still get an emergency, or they can get one filled there, like in the middle of the night or whatever.
Well, we haven't made
Okay.
that change yet. So
Okay.
in November, I'll bring recommendations for
As part of
some
the overall
additional.
plan. Okay,
Yes, for
so
some
that's not
additional
going to be
changes.
in this one at all.
Right, correct.
Okay.
What we have is a higher copay this year, don't we, with some?
Yes.
Yeah, we have.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the reason we did that is because we weren't receiving the type of rebates.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Any questions? Any more questions?
Any questions of Michelle? John, did you?
No, I was just, if it was in order, I was gonna go ahead and make it.
Okay.
Make a
Well, hold it.
motion.
Jason, did you have any questions on it? Okay. John?
I'll go ahead and make a motion to consider to approve Health Plan Amendment Number 15 as discussed by staff.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Motion's approved. Thanks,
Thank you.
Michelle. Number 5.2, consider approval of change order number 1 for the ammonia and sulfuric acid upgrade project at the water treatment plant.
I guess we will talk chemicals. I
Yeah.
guess it's more construction, but no, we're not.
Chemicals,
Yeah.
construction, there we go.
In December of '21, the board awarded the construction contract for the ammonia and sulfuric upgrade project to Herrick Company for $685,000. During the course of construction, Frankfurt Plant Board and Herrick determined additional items to be included in the scope where necessary. The first one was demolition of an existing wall. The wall is just deteriorating and just needs to be tore down. The second one is replace the lighting in that room. Since that wall is going to be torn down, we're just going to replace all the lighting, excuse me, in there. The third one is demolish. There's an existing concrete pad that old water softener sat on, so they're going to take that out. The fourth is in the sulfuric acid room. We're going to paint the floor, put an epoxy coating on it, and a non-slip. I can't think what they call that. Coating on it, I guess. And then the fifth is schedule extension for 108 days. The exact cost of the change order item is currently being reviewed by FPB and HDR. It is expected to be approximately $47,000. $835,000 was budgeted for construction in fiscal year 22-23. Staff recommends the board approve change order number 1 with Herrick Company, subsequent that all costs remain within budget.
Is Herrick gonna do all 5 tasks?
The lighting will be done by a sub.
Okay. Do we have any questions for Catherine?
Can you just explain the schedule extension, the transition?
The schedule extension was when we first, so this is a new product to us. We're used to gas ammonia and we're going to a liquid. So it took a little extra time for us to get comfortable with using just that temporary system. So with us being used to the gas, there was a learning curve there and some chemistry we were trying to work through. So we wanted to make sure that we were going to be good with what we're going with. So we took a little bit of extra time. We just wanted to make sure everything was good.
Once we would tear out,
Yeah.
once we tore out the gas system, if we didn't have the bugs worked out of the liquid system, temporary system, we were going to have a lot of water treatment issues. So we had different bugs that we're seeing, so we backed up again and said, let's just wait a minute, because once we tear that gas system, we can't come back from that. So we backed up to make absolutely sure we weren't going to have any more issues. So we voluntarily told them, could you wait a little bit while we work through this process? And they did. So the extra days are our doing from an operational level.
And the contractor's not gonna charge anything extra for that
There's
change?
no, there's not a charge for that.
Okay.
And they won't start, will they be able to start, will they be able to do any work while you're doing that, or do we have to wait for us to make that transition before any work starts?
They've started construction. They've
Okay.
got the pad poured. They've got the tanks set, and they've done some demolition and construction already.
Okay.
It's just we couldn't have them go any further, tearing out the old system before we were. It was really us getting comfortable with the new process.
We held them up.
Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah.
No, we're good.
Out of extra caution.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes.
And are you through that transition phase?
Yes, they tore out the gas system it was about the middle of August. So that old gas system is gone and we're completely on the new LAS system.
Any other questions? Jason? You good? Okay. Do we have a motion to approve change order number 1?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Amendments approved. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Harvey, you're up here for 3. First one is item 5.3, consider accepting minutes of the June 14th Cable Advisory Committee meeting.
Nothing out of the ordinary here. They're just presented for y'all to accept.
Make a motion, we accept the minutes of the Cable Advisory Board meeting of June 14th, 2022.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion's approved, or minutes are approved. Item 5.4, consider reappointment of Larry Toten to the Cable Advisory Committee. Harvey?
Yes, sir. Staff recommends approval of the reappointment of Larry Totten to a second 3-year term on the Cable Advisory Committee through October 31st of 2025. The bylaws specify that members can be reappointed for an additional term, and Mr. Totten has indicated a willingness to continue to serve on the committee. He is currently serving as the committee's chairperson. His experience and knowledge of the subscriber base will be valuable as FPB faces upcoming renewals. Be happy to answer any questions on this item.
Anybody have any questions or any other names that they'd like to put in nomination? Okay, if not, do we have a motion to reappoint Mr. Totten?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Tell Larry we don't know why he did it, but we appreciate it. The last one is 5.5. Consider memorandum of agreement with Franklin County Fiscal Court for dark fiber and dedicated internet access. Harvey?
Yes, sir. Staff recommends approval of this memorandum of agreement between FPB and the Franklin County Fiscal Court. The board had previously entered into an agreement with them for these same services back in January of 2016. That agreement expired last year, and we've been working with them on a renewal, and we've brought that to you guys today. The fiscal court approved this at their meeting last week, so just waiting, just asking you guys to approve the other side. The terms are essentially the same. They're increasing their speed, and the charges are slightly less now than they were before. So staff attorney has reviewed these changes and it meets with his approval. I'm happy to answer any questions on this item.
Any questions for Harvey on this?
So they're
Steve?
increasing the speed and the charges are less?
Yes, sir. That's generally how the market has been flowing over time. That as wholesale broadband goes down, we generally adjust those downward, and and we're in a competitive situation too against.
Any other questions of Harvey? Do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. It's approved. Next one is.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Harvey. Number 5.6, consider award of RFP number 2022-02, occupational safety consulting firm, J.C.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board again. Bringing forward an RFP for the board's consideration. In August, we actually advertised for an occupational safety consulting firm with experience with municipal utilities, OSHA, and Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration and environmental compliance. We're seeking an expert firm that could assist in promoting safe and healthy work environments by supplementing and enhancing our current safety programs. Basically, we're looking for an independent set of eyes to audit our current written safety program and policies, and maybe suggest updates and best practices. The firm would be utilized on an as-needed basis, and no budget modifications would be required or needed. The RFP was advertised locally, sent directly to 2 firms, and 2 firms responded within the time frame. After evaluation of both responses, recommend RMS Safety. Happy to answer any questions, sir.
Have we used RMS before?
We have, sir.
Okay.
And they've been wonderful to us so far. So, and their rate's very competitive. Sure, sir.
John?
JC, did we have any additional folks submit bids?
We did, sir. We had one more.
Okay.
RMS was actually the lower amount for this estimated time frame and cost.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Yeah, they estimated time to actually audit our programs at let me look here, sir. I believe 14 to 16 hours total at a rate of 105 an hour, which if you did the 14 hours in the math, it comes out to 1470. The other, if you did it 16 hours, it comes out to 1680. The other firm was $200 a month, I believe, sir, per 12 months, so $2,400. Okay. So RMS was actually the lowest.
Okay. Any other questions for Jason? Jason?
I'm good.
Okay. All those in favor say, do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second.
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 We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Thank you.
Approved. Thanks, JC. Okay, number 5.7, approve the pass-through of the KYMEA energy cost adjustment to FPB retail electric customers by way of existing power cost adjustment tariff mechanism. This is going to be Vint and David, and as you all remember, we talked about this last month in terms of the trigger, and I assume that we've got it on the agenda, so we're now dealing with the trigger.
That is correct. I've put together a few slides just to try to help explain it. There's a lot of acronyms here. So, KYMEA, the Kentucky Municipal Energy Agency, as we've said, they have provisions for energy cost adjustment that basically lets them ensure that they do not drop too far below their minimum days of cash on hand, and then if they went too high, obviously it lets them move that out to as a credit. So it can be a collection or a credit, and in this case, it is the KYMEA finances are moving below 40 days because of market pressures that we'll talk about here in a second. So it is a collection situation that they're running into. The targets are set each year by KYMEA board at the same time that they set the rate schedule, and it's in accordance with their financial metrics and the business at hand that they have. Next slide, please. In September, the KYME board, and as you said, Mr. Chairman, this board also took up this item last month as well, but in September, the KYME board approved changes to their ECA. Originally, they had in their policy that it would be a 3-month window that they would look at, but with the volatility of the market and the issues we're dealing with today, that was too much time. By the time all the things pass through and you wait 3 months, they could have been in a really bad position as far as days cash on hand. So if you remember last month, we modified that to 1 month, recommended voting that way, and then KYMEA did make that change. So the changes are necessary because of all the issues that the whole country is seeing with the energy market right now. As we see up here, it's the highest market energy cost that we've seen in 14 years. The highest inflation, obviously, we all understand what that's doing to us in 40 years. And the global energy impact from Russia and the Ukrainian invasion and what's that doing to gas prices and energy prices all over that global market is certainly making a lot of issues. So again, like I said, because of that, it was a prudent course of action for ECA, for KYMEA to change the ECA policy from 3 months to 1 month. And ultimately, when you push that through the system, what does that ultimately mean to the Frankfurt Plant Board? Basically, 0.3 cents per kilowatt hour on energy used, an increase of that amount is what we are seeing. So the first one was passed through to the Frankfurt Plant Board on our September bill that we just got, equated to about $192,000 overall to the Frankfurt Plant Board. Next slide, please. So that leaves us with the situation of how do we deal with that? How do we operate and move forward in that situation? The Frankfurt Plant Board has provisions for fuel adjustments and charges like this in our tariff. It's called a PCA, Power Cost Adjustment. That's the language we've used for years and years. It was the same thing we used under KU when these kind of provisions would kick in. So the existing tariff provides a way for us to pass these kind of charges through on a month-to-month basis. Many times they can change. The one we're talking about right now, depending on how we implement it, could change, but will probably stay pretty consistent. So using the tariff mechanism that we have in place, staff is recommending that we pass through the rate increase in KYMEA associated with this ECA to our customers in that mechanism. Next slide, please. So what would the impact be to our retail customers? Basically, this pass-through for a retail customer, average residential customer who uses about 1,200 kilowatt hours per month, that would equate to about $3.60 additional cost to their bill. Again, that would be itemized on their bill as a PCA charge.
So about 10 cents a day.
Yes, sir.
And that would be in place for as long as KYMEA is experiencing the higher costs that they're having to pay for energy. Then if those costs recede, then that would trigger back off, right?
Yes. The moment if KYMEA pulls it back off, we will bring the PCA back to zero as soon as it's paid for. However, I would say with the market conditions we're seeing right now, I don't expect that's going to change in the next month or two.
Right.
So as long as they are below 40 days cash on the hand, they will have to make this collection. The other thing to remember is if this continues on through the rest of the year, when KYMEA gets to its next, looking at its rates and making its next physical decisions for the next year, very well they may make adjustments, roll things into their base rates, and then the PCA would go away. There's a possibility that they would disappear at that point. We will just have to see. Again, we're kind of in, I won't say necessarily we've never seen energy market conditions like this, but it has been quite a few years, certainly.
Let me stop you for just a minute, Vince. Steve, did you have something?
Well, one point to what you just said, we're making accommodations for when they need more money, their cash flows. What happens with the unlikely event a credit comes back? Are we prepared to give it back to the ratepayer?
Again, that would be a board decision, but the PCA, the way it is set up is if we have too much, we issue it back as a credit the same way we can. That's how the mechanism can work.
In the past, the board gave the credit last 2-3 years. That's a part of the rebate.
Well, I know that, but I'm talking about this particular item because their
Yes.
policy allows for a potential credit. So
Yes.
if we're gonna
Yes.
pass along an added cost, then wouldn't we pass along the corresponding credit if likely back to
It
the
is
ratepayer?
a board decision to keep any current policy.
So I'm just asking if that's possible. I know it's out of the decision.
Yes.
Is that practical? Is that,
If their cash over 90 day in the hand, current policy trigger automatic refund to the like
and
us.
what I'm saying is, what do we do with the refund?
That will be decision in that time.
But I mean,
Yes.
with that, realistically, what Steve's saying is, if they trigger off that extra charge to us, then we trigger off the ECA to our customer, or the PCA to our customers, right?
Realistically, they're gonna move back above 40 days.
Right.
They're gonna bring the PCA to 0.
Okay.
And then
And it'll go
the
away
days
on our
cash on
customer's
hands
bill.
will quit climbing, and they will be somewhere in between this band
Uh-huh.
of 90 to 40.
As soon as they have a cash on hand more than 40 days, that month they will stop charge
Well, see,
us.
the question deals with what we do, not
Yeah.
what they're gonna do. When we get if we get a credit back from them, are we gonna pass that credit back to ratepayer since we're passing along the additional cost? That's the question, not
That's
what.
the way the PCA is set up. Let's take, for instance, the way it operated for all those years under KU. You would have positive and negative fuel adjustment depending on some months. Some months we passed through a credit, and some months it was not. This is not gonna vary like that necessarily, but it's, the mechanism can absolutely pass it back as a credit to the customer, but it would be the board's decision.
And the way Vint and Gary just explained it, it's extremely likely that they're gonna get back above 40 days cash on hand. And the instant that happens, this
10 cents a day goes off.
This 10 cents a day
I
goes
understand
away.
that. I'm talking
But
about when they.
what I'm saying is, if that goes away, they're gonna have a hard time getting to 90 days, which is gonna trigger the credit. If it does trigger the credit, we'll cross that bridge when
Well,
we come to
no,
it.
I think you should cross it now because I'm saying it's unlikely. But if it is possible that a credit large enough that will come back to us, we could give back to the customer. I'm not saying it's likely, but it's possible. So why not deal with that now? I don't want
Well, how would it?
a year or two from now someone said, no, we just keep everything.
Let me ask David or Vint this. Say we get to the 90 days and we get a credit back from them. Would we get that like in a reconciliation at the end of a fiscal year? Or would it just be a credit to us against our billings from KYMEA? And then we would basically have a surplus in our account where we were collecting the base rates, right?
Currently is instant. Currently is, if they go to any month more than 90 days, that amount of money will divide by the member based
Right.
on their uses. Then that credit, either credit us or send us check, and no difference. They will have
They
the
probably wouldn't send us
numbers.
a check. They'd probably just give us a credit on a bill.
It
Yeah.
shows on our invoice from KYMEA as a PCA. Right now, it's a negative. If it went positive, if the board wants to make the decision that, yep, that will be sent back as a credit, absolutely we can do it.
So would that be in the tariff?
Yeah,
That-
would we put that in the tariff, or is that something we address in the tariff, or do we only address cost in the tariff?
The plant board's tariff, I think would already cover it, wouldn't it?
Well, this is the one that's dealing with this item now, so wouldn't it should be in this one if it's supposed to be there.
Would we put a refund in the tariff, I guess is the question.
I think it is both direction, but it is your call in that moment.
It was that our tariff says, in the event the rate under which the plant board has purchased power and wholesale permit supplier is adjusted in accordance with fuel adjustment provision contained in those amount sufficient to recover the amount that shall be applied, whatever, and the amount shall be separate on each bill, separated on each bill. We did get credits under KU, and they were credited back the exact same way they were charged
To the customer.
to the customer of the PCA. There was no.
So does
they
our
would get credit. They would get the credit.
Yes.
so does our current tariff provide for that same?
Yes.
That's what it is.
That
Yeah.
same tariff is exactly what we're just. This PCA has been zero for about 3 years right now.
So for
And
what
so
Steve's asking
we're
is,
just turning it back
if
on.
we get over 90 and we start accumulating a credit,
Yes.
then our current policy is the board doesn't have to take any further action. Our current policy would be customers would automatically start getting that credit back on their bills as we accumulate them from KYMEA.
If KYMEA gives us a negative a credit PCA,
Mm-hmm.
we can pass it right through in the same.
So but at first you said it's the board's decision, and now you said if they,
Well,
so.
what I'm
trying to
saying
get
is
what it
that's the way
actually
it's always been implemented, but if the board says no, they didn't want to implement it that way,
But our
that's what I
exist-
meant by.
But the
But if
question is it automatic? Or
Mhm.
do we
Yes.
do, when would we take that up? Would it be the next board meeting after there's a negative credit? Or can we can we make a decision now? Like, is it all, which
That's
one
what
of
I meant
those?
by it's the board's decision. This normally was always automatic. I think we're kind of bringing it tonight as an abundance.
If the board
of
takes no
information.
action at this time, will it happen automatically?
Actually, for this 192,000.
No,
we
forget the
already-
192.
No,
I'm
no.
talking about in the future, if we get
Yes.
above 90,
Yes.
and there's a credit flow, do we have to take any action, or will the credits automatically accrue back to the customers if we take no other action?
In theory, you don't. But since the last 3 years, it didn't happen that way. We never charged a PCA. So this time, just want to be the customer where you know what happened. Actually, is staff asked me to say automatically put in before today's meeting to charge customer. What I told us is, hold on, I want you discussing it, you heard it, public can have that information too. I just try to explain what it is. We can't do automatically, but it didn't happen automatically because it
essentially-
would be
So
surprised.
essentially what you're saying is the vote we're taking today is what's out of the ordinary. What ordinarily would happen is this would just show up on their bill as a PCA, and then if we ever got the credit, it would just show back up on their bill as a credit.
That's not what you said.
Correct.
That's exactly
That's
what I
correct.
just said.
That's absolutely
You
what
just said
used
it's
to
the
happen.
board's decision to give the credit back.
But it's.
Because we set the tariffs.
Yeah, that's what I meant by that. I mean, it's the board's decision whether they want to continue to implement this the way it historically has been done.
I mean, if we maintain current policy, current tariffs, it will happen automatically.
Correct.
Okay.
But if the board so choose to change that, that's what I meant by that. It's the board's decision.
So the issue in front of us right now is to approve the pass-through, the 10 cents a day. And then the secondary issue is, we're down 1 month that we've incurred the cost and we've already been charged for it, but we didn't recover it.
Correct.
So the question is, A, can we absorb it? And 2, if we can't absorb it, do we try to recover it at one time, or do we prorate it over a series of months so we don't hit the customers with a double hit that first time? Is that correct?
That's correct. If you want to, would you jump to the last slide? Well, we'll just cover this since we're here. I just want to make the point to the board that even with the PCA, we still will be the residential rate will still be 20% lower for the average residential
Right.
customer than the competition, I guess you would say, the other entities that are around us that serve customers in Franklin County. Next slide, please. Yeah, the question you were asking, Mr. Chairman, what kind of options do we have here? These are 4 options I've kind of laid out here. You can, number one, you can absorb the complete increase, not pass any on to the customers. That's going to be about a $2 million cost if this stayed in place for about 12 months. Again, I'm not sure it will, but that would be what it would be, $2 million charge that the plant board would incur. If the plant board wanted to, we've already hit this first month, has already hit us at $192,000. If the plant board wanted to absorb the first month increase, then we could start the PCA billing next month, but the plant board would lose $192,000 in this case. Number 3, you could double up the first month, 2 charges, and recover it basically in 1 month. That might not be very appealing. And then 4, the other option would be to prorate the recovery. And I just laid out there a couple of different options for you, 3 months, 6 months, 9, and 12. And you can see what the charges would be for those months. And again, the idea would be if it's 3 months, you would prorate that. $4.80 would be on an average residential bill is what we're just talking about here, just to keep apples to apples. For 3 months, they would see $4.80, and then it would drop back down to the normal.
Or for 6 months, they'd see
$4.20 average, and then after that, it would drop back down to $3.60. up until the point KYMEA
Triggers off, which could happen at any time,
triggers
yeah.
off, right. And if it was positive and or if it was a credit back, then whatever that amount would be, I don't know what that would be, but we would credit it back to the customer under the current operation mechanism.
I mean, I'll throw out the first pitch and then open it up to you all. I mean, I'd love to do number one, but I'm not sure financially we can take that 2 million hit. Of the two, of the 4 options, I like either number 2 or number 4. Not very keen on number 3. So throw it out for Catherine.
I like number 4 and stretching it out as long as possible. And I don't know if this makes sense, because if there is a credit back, we could just stop the collection process.
Yeah,
Theoretically.
realistically, there's not gonna be a credit under the current situation, there's not gonna be a credit. If there is, we could, but it's just operationally, and the way the markets are, it's almost impossible. When we cross that 40 days cash on hand, they're gonna bring it back to 0 and stop it from going that far.
Right.
And the way the markets are operating, it's not that elastic that it's gonna swing past 29.
No.
It's just not gonna happen that way, but
But it's possible we are gonna come back and have to do this again.
it depends on when they do the rates and they make new decisions, the board of KYMEA may change their minimum days cash on hand, or they could change something, but.
Our prices could keep going up even beyond
Or
current.
change the rates
Yeah.
for next fiscal year.
There's a possibility. I don't want to draw a darker picture. Right now, just $3 megawatt hour, 0.3 cents per kilowatt hour QME charge. But currently, they try to maintain below the 40-day, but they still over 30. But if that case getting worse, then they might have to implement even more PCA. Because currently, if you look at our competitor, KU or Bluegrass, their PCA is not a $3, it's a $14 to $15.
That's what the last month we saw.
Last month we saw.
So theirs is much, much, much higher than
Much higher
Yeah.
than us, yes.
Steve?
I would probably go with 2.
Mr. Denton, on number 2, what's that do to us?
You know, if we were to end the fiscal year after 3 months, you know, we're tracking above, we could say, hey, we think we can handle it. There is pressure in all 3 divisions of this company. To absorb that much money, you would look at deferring a capital project, is where I would say for this minute. Is where I would say that 192,000, we don't have that baked in a slush fund. So it would be, if we're going to designate a 192 to absorb, I would say you defer a capital project.
Do we have any capital projects that, based on current timelines and that look like they're going to be deferred on their own because they're just not going to get done for either materials, bidding, or whatever?
I would need to consult with those that are closest to the happening on the ground with capital. There is a possibility. There is a possibility, because we are having problems with different supply chain issues.
John? Oh, Steve?
What was the surplus, if any, in the electrical budget last fiscal year?
We had amount of cash on hand as we started the year.
Now, what was budgeted versus what was spent in the electrical budget?
You talking about the energy charges or total budget?
No, yeah, the whole total
Okay.
electrical budget. What did we budget versus what did we spend?
You'd have to give me a minute to look back at that.
I think one thing that might answer your question a little bit is our AMI budget. Obviously, we've not been able to spend the money on that project because we don't have the meters, so that's kind of been paused. I think we're definitely, because of things outside of our control, we're going to definitely be in a situation where we're not going to spend the amount of money that was allocated to that project in the budget. So I think in that project alone, it's probably enough that, you know, we're going to have to push that project back a little further. I'm not saying don't do the AMI project. I'm
Right.
saying it'll land in next budget.
By its own weight, it's being delayed.
And we would probably have more than a couple $100,000 of extra money not spent on that project. So I think in that project alone, the electric department will still balance the budget, I think.
John?
I'm pretty confident in that.
I appreciate the thought behind absorbing some or all of this. I just don't think that's feasible for us right now. I think what we need to do is we need to go ahead and collect under number 4. I disagree a little bit with what Catherine said. What I would prefer to do would be do the shortest timeline for the 3 months. That is essentially $1.20 or so per on the average bill, the extra month above for that first 3 months. And the reason I would suggest that is if it gets worse in the wintertime and this charge has to go up, which is not beyond the realm of possibility, then we're stuck, raising that even more. And honestly, if we do it for 3 months at $4.80 and then they have to raise the PCA, it may end up just being $4.80 from here on out. I'm certainly don't know anything, but I would rather do it over a shorter time frame than a longer time frame. But I certainly don't think we're in a position financially. I don't feel comfortable with us absorbing this cost when, but because nobody else is absorbing this cost. If KU, Bluegrass, there's no electrical companies out here that are absorbing this cost. We're doing the best we can for our customers, and they can see based on the rates that it's not, $14, $15. It's $3. So we're taking a very conservative path in terms of whatever increases we're doing. But I would suggest we go with 4 and recoup all of it and implement a staggered 3-month thing to pick up what we had in arrears from the first month.
Let me give Steve Ford, come back to you. Jason?
Okay, well, thanks for everybody really thinking about this and laying this out. I do want to make a comment that, I've been watching this energy market along with Gary and Ben and everybody else in the energy world, and this is a global phenomenon that's happening. It's not national. It's not local. These are global pressures going on in Ukraine and Russia and things way, way out of our control. So we're just trying to do the best we can. I agree with John that I think number 4 is the most sensible approach because these are pass-through costs. All the other utilities are doing it. And we're just trying to prepare ourselves for more uncertainty in the future. So if we start depleting our funds, if we have more uncertainty come, we're still digging ourselves up from the pandemic, we might not be in a good place to be able to make decisions with even harder curveballs kind of being thrown at us. So I think number 4 shows that we're trying to soften to our customers as much as we can, but it also, in between 3 months and 6 months, I'm open to that time frame, but I think John made a lot of good points. I'm just sorry that we have to do this, but I do like the idea that if things can start to recover, like Gary said earlier, about energy prices possibly maybe start to drop a little bit, we could start to build up that reserve again and maybe get back into either no cost associated with this or even a credit back to the customer. But I know we've a lot of uncertainty around that.
Okay. So we've got a couple issues on the table. Does anybody want to throw out a motion?
I do want to say one more thing about the 3 months versus 6 months. If for some reason the need for this PCA goes away in 4 months and we're still trying to collect the back stuff on over a 6-month period, there's going to be customers saying, well, this PCA has gone away. Why am I still being charged for this bill? So that's the reason I would push for the 3 months. But, whatever.
Let me say this. One, we're a public agency, so it would not be other utility companies. $192,000 is what I'm saying we can absorb. I guarantee, well, I can't guarantee, but if you look at the budgets of the last few years, prior years, there's always been some surplus there. So, and that money just keeps passing on. The AMI project is not going to be done. You're going to have money. So we're not really losing money because all we're talking about is spending money that won't be spent at the end of this fiscal year. So couple that with a public agency, we're not a profit agency. I don't see any problem in taking absorbing the first 192. And 192 is taking. You're right. It's going to go up again, but that's 192. The ratepayers don't have to pay right now.
I just think the question is, where do we stop when we get there? How much can we continue to absorb and continue to absorb?
You stop right there with that. That's all I'm
Are you sure? I mean,
yeah, I am sure because going beyond this, it's no catch up. We're starting from scratch with them. It's no catch up after this. they will be absorbing whatever that is.
Okay,
In
I
my
just
opinion,
agree, I
that's
just agree,
my point.
I just disagree with you on that. I think this is a pass-through, this is set up to be a pass-through charge, and I think we need to make it a pass-through charge. We may have other things down the road that may cause us to have to readjust our budget, and I just think this is a sacrifice. You know, we've let our customers have existed in a system where their rates have not increased. They've gotten rebates every year, givebacks to them when we've had too much money. We're in a situation now, like Jason said, this isn't of anybody's doing. This is the worldwide calamities that have come together.
I really disagree how you characterize these givebacks, because that's what we promoted.
Well, I understand.
In the KYMEA, we promoted the giveback, so it's not a giveback. So, and anyway, in the last 3 or 4 years I've been on this board, there has always been surplus money left in these budgets. The first year I got on there, I asked, how much do you get for sale of surplus property? What happens to the money? It just goes back in the thing. It was $34,000 at that time. So I know there's surplus money in the budget, and $192,000 in the electric department is there. And why not?
How about this for a compromise? This is great. This is going to be good, earth-shaking. Why don't we take 95 savings that we're not going to end up spending AMI, and take the remaining 95 and prorate it over the next 3 months plus the 360. So we buy down half of the increase. We buy down half of the 190.
I knew having a budget director as this chair was going to be a problem.
See, you got to put a little notwithstanding language in there, buddy, and then you cruise it.
So the AMI was kind of thrown out as an example of, right, but we're not spending it now because we can't buy stuff.
Right. That money's going to be spent.
But it's going to be spent.
Next fiscal year, yeah.
Correct.
Next fiscal year.
And then what do we do next year?
That puts us behind the
Well, to give you an example, we are predicting, if everything went to plan, a drawdown of $8.5 million reduction in our cash balance, because we have large projects. We are going to spend down cash reserves if everything went to plan, as it is. Mr. Mason's right. Life and budgets don't always line up, but in this case, yes, we will not spend every dime the way it looks of AMI, but that project does have a $9 million total, and it will cost at some point $9 million.
Right. Ms. Kuban,
Your
sorry.
budgets, when you
Our
put your
budgets, yeah.
budget,
Yes.
Our budgets, okay.
You voted for it. You voted for it, Val.
When you make the budget, you estimate the amount of money, revenue that you're gonna bring in, and you base the budget on that revenue for the year.
For all 3 lines of business, yes.
Okay, so that's why it's surplus money. It's not gonna be spent this year, it's gonna be surplus money, because the next year's budget will be based on that year's estimated revenue.
Yeah, we're planning on drawing down on that cash reserve. We will spend more than we bring in. I'm just saying what the plan is. But yes, based on the way the world is moving, there's a high likelihood we will not spend all our capital budget.
Well, since my motion was met by crickets.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to make a motion.
Okay,
I'm going to make a
go
motion.
for it, buddy.
I'm going to make a motion that we begin to collect the PCA, and we collect all of the charge that we got from KYMEA, and we go with option 4.1, which is collect the second month in the month it occurs, collects the first months we've already been billed for over the next 3 months. And that is the motion I will make.
So you basically are option 4 you're taking option 4 with the 3-month option.
With the 3-month option of recouping the very first month that we've already been charged for.
And recouping that over a 3-month period.
Over a 3-month period. Yeah, that's the motion I will make.
Do we have a second?
I second that.
Did you second it, Jason?
Yeah, I second it.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Any further discussion?
Can I make another point real quick?
Sure.
I guess I hear what everyone's saying, and I see where everyone's coming from. I just really believe that cash flows in a budget, they have their own nature and character, and this is definitely the character of a pass-through. So starting to confuse it with a sort of subsidy or as much as I would like to reduce costs to our customer, the very nature of this is a pass-through, and I think to start to muddy that water, really opens up Pandora's box of like, well, why aren't we constantly kind of, I hate to use the term robbing Peter to pay Paul, but why aren't we constantly kind of jigging between different shoeboxes of money? And so I think this one's a very clean pass-through, and we need to treat it like that, just like utilities normally do. And so that's why I'm seconding that amendment. I don't want to charge our customers extra money, but this is a global, national, regional, and now local kind of issue.
Okay, we have a motion second. Does anybody want to change or explain their vote before we vote? Okay, we have a motion second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? No. Motion passes. Okay.
Are you voting or not?
Yeah.
You voted no?
No, yeah. Item, let's see.
5-8.
5-8. Okay, item 5.8, consider award of bid invitation number 1767, Spacer Cable to Westco in the amount of $170,456.18. Couldn't get that 18 cents off, huh, Travis?
No, sir, they had to have it. Good evening again, everyone. Staff prepared a bid invitation for overhead spacer cable. The bid was publicly advertised and sent directly to 11 potential vendors. 2 responses were received. After reviewing the bid, staff recommends awarding to Wesco in the amount of $170,465.18. Wesco was our lowest bidder.
Can I ask you a question, Travis?
Sure.
We sent out to 11. How come only 2?
It's somewhat specialized, so 2 is not that surprising in this case. The reason we would have sent it to 11 is probably just every distributor. Everybody that's kind of on the standard electric material list would get the bid, even though it's...
Someone may not even stock that.
Yeah, yeah. We didn't necessarily assume that they would all bid every bid, but they're kind of the standard list. So we just sent this one to pretty much everybody, seeing what we would get, and again, we only got the 2 back, and I think it's somewhat specialized material.
How did they do in terms of, were they able to agree to time frames and everything? Was there any problem with this one in terms of meeting our time frames? And
it's long. It was in the 20-week range, but that's okay. We can probably make that work. It's not ideal, but it's not.
Any other questions of Travis on that? Okay, do we have a motion? We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Approved. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We got informational items, 2 items here. First is Nichelle to talk about Cheryl Morgan as FPB's insurance broker consultant. And this is an item for informational is technically we don't have to vote on this, but because it involves health insurance and bidding, I think the feeling was the board ought to be aware of it to know what was going on and so forth. So, Nichelle, take it away.
Okay. So management asked staff to conduct a search for our health insurance broker consultant. So in August of 2022, FPB issued a request for proposals for those services and received 5 responses. Proposals were reviewed by myself, our chief operating officer, a finance director, and the HR staff. In conducting the search, staff was able to confirm that our current insurance broker, Cheryl Morgan, offered the needed broker and consultant services, and their professional fees and commission structure is competitive and favorable. In addition, the search also helped us to determine that staff will conduct a health insurance broker service request for proposals at least every 5 years. At the November board meeting, I plan to bring or present to the board any health insurance plan recommendations and the stop loss quotes for the board to approve. So do you have any questions?
How many did we say? I know you got down to a final 2.
Yeah.
For negotiation. How many total originally bid or indicated interest?
5.
5.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2, you narrowed it down to 2 and then?
Yes.
Okay. And how long has Cheryl Morgan been our broker?
Honestly, I've been here 16 years, and so I've worked with them for 16 years, and they were here prior to me starting to work here.
Okay. And then last year, what did we come in under budget on health insurance?
I don't know.
You remember, Dave?
I believe we budgeted $3 million. It was 2.6.
Okay.
It was. That sounds about
okay.
Close to that.
So, any other questions for Michelle?
You don't need to make an approval on this.
No, we don't have, no, that's right, yeah, I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
all we have to do is, thank you for your presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. The next item is Ethics Committee, member terms. We've got a member that's coming up, as I understand it, Hans, 2. And then the question is, do we want to offer them to be reappointed if they're willing to, or do you know if they're already willing to?
I wanted to get everyone's feedback this evening before I reached out to anyone. Right now, I mean, they're 2-year terms and both expire in December, so we need to lock down, at the latest, have an agenda item to approve 2 new members in December.
So the 2 options are, if these 2 people are willing to be reappointed and serve, that we could do that. If anybody had any other people they wanted to nominate for the positions, we could consider those names also.
Correct.
So basically, all we're doing today is we're not voting on these people. We're basically saying, either A, do we want you to contact them and see if they want to continue to serve, or if anybody else wants to submit any other names to Hans to contact, get their resumes, circulate, we can go that route. So,
yes, sir.
Do we need to do anything other than that, or just?
No, sir. Just if anyone has names, the item has got a kind of settled on a December 1 deadline. And in the meantime, if it's okay with everyone, I'll reach out to our 2 current nominees and see if they want to throw their name in the hat again. But certainly appreciate their service to the board over the past 2 years.
Is that course of action? Okay, so you proceed with that, and then you'll bring us back these names if they want to serve, and/or any other names that also might want to serve, right?
Yes, sir. I'll reach out to these folks, and when I hear back, I'll send around an update to everyone, send around a memorandum, kind of a status update, so everyone can be thinking about it. So thanks very much.
Okay. Next is item community solar update. Travis.
Good evening again, everyone. So the update on community solar, the RFP that we discussed last month is substantially done, pretty much ready to go out the door. Maybe a couple minor edits, and we can get it out tomorrow, assuming everybody's happy with that time frame. It'll be a little bit of a tight schedule, but we should still be on track to get before the board in November for possible vendor award. So we should still be able to make that time frame. The only other possible item I think that was up for discussion, we have in the RFP that the solar would be here at this facility. It's a total 570 kW facility broken up into 4 phases. We want the bidder to quote phase 1 about 150-ish kW with a option for the second phase, which would be in the 300 kW range. So that's how it's going out the door now. I want to make sure there's no potential changes to that. I think there was an alternate site that was maybe floated out to us. Do we need to have any discussion on that? Or are we happy with the location we have here? That's all what's in the bid now. This site, 150 kW with an option for a 300 kW.
Jason, you and Catherine, what's?
Yeah, Travis, thanks very much. I reviewed the RFP very quickly earlier. Overall, it looks really good. I did have one. I think you've laid it out. I think the site we've picked right next to the headquarters is a great site. But one question I did have about the RFP, if you don't mind.
Sure.
You guys included a contract, like a kind of a templated contract at the end of the RFP. Is that pretty typical for the plant board to do with an RFP submission?
It is. We typically would like to go ahead and get our terms and conditions out there out front. Not that those are not anything that can be adjusted on a project basis. They're not boilerplate in the sense that we don't change them project to project. But yes, we do. We typically would like to put our terms and conditions out with the bid. We don't want to get a response back from a vendor that we think is really good, and then a week down the road, we can't agree on some of the terms and conditions. That wouldn't be ideal. Okay. So, Hans, unless you have a different opinion, I think that's pretty standard. Yeah.
Catherine, because I know you've been working closely. Oh, I'm sorry, Jason. Do you have something else?
Oh, I'm sorry. I just want to throw out in. Was there anything in the larger RFP? Like I said, I reviewed it fairly thoroughly, but maybe I missed a word here or there, that stated that they could actually negotiate the contract. Is there some flexibility with the was that noted in the RFP, or is it kind of take it or leave it approach?
Generally, it's unless there's something outside of the terms we propose. Some of those, I mean, it may depend on what the item is, I guess I would say. Some of the contract terms, like Hans was pointing out, are to align us with state statutes. For instance, retainage provisions, I think those are laid out in contract law. That's why they go in the contract that way.
Are we doing firm fixed, or are we doing competitive negotiation on the RFP?
I think it's a fixed price.
Yeah, right. The intent as of right now today would be to send it out as a firm fix.
Okay.
I think the only time we did a competitive negotiation was on the AMI. I think that's the only.
Yeah, your question about the term, Jason's question about the terms of the, you know, is it take it or leave it? And I'm just trying to think. Sometimes you know a bidder can turn in, you know, you can waive certain, you know, if they don't have an insurance certificate, something like that, you can say, sure, go get it and provide it, right, you know, and you're okay. And then other terms, if you don't have that, you're not responsive to the bid. So.
Yeah.
Okay. The only reason I guess I was asking that is, I've seen a lot of solar vendor proposals and contracts and things, and I just want to make sure that we're not eliminating a really qualified vendor because of something that seems fixed in stone in our contract that would not align with their kind of service contract. And once again, I know nothing about RFP contract level stuff. I just wanted to make sure when I looked at that, I just never seen a contract like that included in an RFP. I just want to make sure it wouldn't turn off some really qualified vendors who would just not want to meet those letters. So that's it. Hans, if you think there's flexibility, if you think they understand that they can negotiate a little bit. I just know with solar vendors, they have a lot of language around warranty and other things that they kind of fixes them in place a little bit. But I'll leave it at that. That was my only thing about the whole package I saw that just kind of raised a question for me.
I mean, Hans, I'm just throwing it out. I mean, under state contract law, if you do competitive negotiation, you can pick best quality, best qualified, and then say you'll pick the best quality proposal, and then you'll negotiate a competitive price. And if you can't get a competitive price from your highest point, you can move to your number 2 vendor, which is the advantage of kind of what Jason's talking, is the advantage of competitive negotiation. You focus 100% on quality, and then you go to competitive price, and you can move to 1, 2, or 3 if you can't get the best price. If you don't think so, if you pick the best quality and they're twice the price of number 2, you're legitimate to go to number 2 if you're not losing any quality. But if you go fixed price, there's not really a lot of bumping room on a firm fixed price bid, is there?
No, if you're going to bid on a set of specifications, that's what you're bidding on. But you could still pick a higher, even if you're.
Oh yeah.
You could still pick.
As long as you don't have a formula to wait to add price to quality points, and you have a formula, then you are locked onto a higher price can knock out the best qualified bidder.
Higher price could be justified, say, if someone had a faster delivery time, for example, or that's just that's just the product that the agency wants.
Right.
You know, maybe it's a particular type of array that's being offered, a better, you know, but you can pick that, and as long as the agency has some rational basis for its decision, you're going to bid.
As long as you're not awarding points for that.
As long as they're on points, yes, yes.
If you award points, then you are locked.
A point system.
Yes.
We do have a point system in the evaluation for proposal cost effectiveness. Technical approach is also one of them, proposer qualifications, and team members' experience, etc. There's points basis. It's not 100% for cost. That's 40 points. But
So 60% quality, 40% cost.
40% cost, 20% technical approach and implementation schedule, 20% proposer qualifications and project experience, and 20 points proposal project team member experience.
And that's the way it's all. I mean, that's the way we've always. I mean, I've seen that, and I don't know how many bids here over the years. So if we want
to, it's cost effectiveness. That doesn't necessarily mean if you've got really terrible components, I mean, you know, it's not exactly just straight up cost, but. You know, if the board wants to, you know, that's what we put it out there for. If the board wants to change the.
I mean, we want the best quality proposal, and what Jason was saying, we want the best quality proposal at the best possible price. But would we be willing to pay more, a little more, for a better quality? And again, competitive negotiation gives you a little running room in there to sit down and bring the vendors in, talk to them, score them. I don't know, whatever y'all think. I mean, it's not something we're voting on tonight.
I think
We're
there
going to move
has
it from
to be,
informational to an action item.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in my concern, I think we definitely have to have that flexibility in there. And Travis, I saw that scoring ranking. I thought that was really a good approach. But there's apples and oranges in the solar market. I mean, with Chinese panels, they could be getting very cheap panels that don't have a great life to them. It could drastically reduce, quote, their costs, but they're giving us a very inferior array. So I think as much flexibility as we can have to kind of sluice that out from the proposals from the vendors would be best. But I thought the ways you guys laid out the RFP was great. I thought it did that. I was more asking about the contract with FPB. If we wanted to put draft or negotiable, or if we want to just add a little language to give a little flexibility so a vendor wouldn't look at that and go, well, I'm not even going to apply to this because I'm not going to sign that contract. That's the only slight heartburn that I had, but the rest look great. So I'm good.
Steve?
My suggestion would be if Jason has time when he gets back, if he could get with Hans and kind of get in what you're talking about, Jason, into this contract. You know, to lay some of your, because I feel you have the expertise to understand how to get flexibility into this contract. So if Jason has time to, when he gets back, to come back, you know.
I don't want to slow this train down. Travis, you guys got a great timeline in the RFP. You guys are trucking forward. I mean, in my mind, even just a watermark on the contract saying draft or typical template, or even a language in the RFP that says, you know, see attached contract negotiable. That's why I asked if you guys had that language in there, because I didn't see it. And, you know, it's negotiable, but this is our standard contract. That's all I'm saying. I'm not trying to open any cans of worms. I think you guys are trucking well, and I want to get out of your way so you can keep trucking on this stuff.
If I can make a suggestion, one thing possibly we could do if Hans is okay with it, he says it's okay. Something along the lines of, we'll attempt to enter into a contract with the top ranked vendor. If for some reason the contract terms negate our ability to do that, we will have the right to move to the next best proposal.
Yes,
if that works.
If you want to leave it out completely, you could do that too. We've done that as well, is leave out and like you just said, you could, you know, attempt to come to some terms. If they don't, you know, maybe they look at, for example, like Jason was talking about, maybe they don't like our insurance requirements, for example, and they just say, I'm not going to do those limits or whatnot.
I mean, there's some provisions, there's some terms and conditions that are not
We have to
negotiable.
have in there.
Like EEOC, political, all those type things have to be in there. You can't make contributions to win a contract. I mean, those are all standard law stuff that have to be. Then there are other things which, you know, the state uses the term best qualified, which deals with both, in 45A, with both the best quality and the best price. So you have the ability to negotiate that. Certain terms and conditions are not negotiable. They have to live with that. We can't waive those. We can't waive anything that's in state or federal law.
That's true.
Could I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Based on what Mr. DeLong, I think he was asking. It says on-site solar installation agreement, and then it's all laid out there. We could change the wording to proposed on-site installation agreement, open for discussions or something along those lines, guideline, proposed on-site installation agreement guideline. We could put that in there. I think that would be pretty clear that these are the terms that are important to us. Obviously, and all the ones I've seen, I think, anybody, they propose something no matter what it is, and then we have conversations, and they're like, you left that out, or hey, that's not there, and we just, that's a normal way we do it. If there's the thought that this will, I mean, obviously, Mr. DeLong's in this business to a large degree, the consulting side of it. If if that might scare away vendors, if we put proposed on-site or sample on-site installation agreement, I think that would send a pretty clear message that, let's talk about the terms. I mean,
Yeah.
if that would
I mean, you
solve
could
that
put in
group.
there, you could put in there something that's simple, and I've seen this on state contracts. You could put in there this, the FPB will enter into a contract with the successful bidder.
Right.
Which incorporates all required federal, state, local requirements, other terms to be negotiated or something.
Can we do both?
Yeah, that's, you guys are, like I said, I didn't want to, sorry, go ahead, Catherine.
No, I mean, if we could have that language and the, sample language, I like the idea of hopefully short-circuiting later someone saying, oh, no, I'm not agreeing to that. So then we waste time.
Right.
But I understand Jason's point, not scaring away somebody who thinks this is just written in stone, but we also have to let people know, that they do have flexibility, and so does the next guy, and we're gonna go with the quality. So if we could have a combination of the language, like this is a sample, as well as your language, but I like having that sample in there. And I don't wanna slow this down. I mean, we're trying to get this out tomorrow, right?
That would be ideal. If we push it maybe a little further, we could still maybe make November, but I think tomorrow would be ideal.
Yeah.
If you push it much more, you're gonna run into the other issue of eliminating potential vendors because your timeline's so tight.
Right.
So I wanna make sure.
Yeah, plus we're already looking at the site walk on the 26th and questions by the 27th. Are you changing, are we keeping that date?
I mean, those would those would be tight deadlines, but that would be the intent, yes, to give everybody at least a couple days to plan for the site walk. Put those items in there as optional for that reason. I don't think we should necessarily boot anybody if they don't come to the pre-bid meeting.
So those aren't mandatory. It's not a mandatory pre-bid or site walk.
Right, exactly, yes. We left that open to.
What you have is one vendor shows up to the site and looks around and goes, well, I guess I'm the only bidder. So I don't want to do it.
I mean, sometimes your bidders' comments are mandatory in your site walk, sometimes, right.
Yeah. We've actually had those, if you don't get people, then you have to back up and do it again. But
Right.
in this case, I'm afraid they would look around and say, does the board want?
One thing I like to talk a little bit, Travis mentioned in the beginning, the site. I mean, it's not something we want to propose any change, but there's some new information I want the board aware, know that. Actually, the city manager talked to me, said there's a piece of land available, could let us consider, which has happened just a few days ago, right? As soon as I have a share with you too.
I think it was Friday, maybe of last week.
Friday. But can you show the board aware, you have any map, any information that the board aware that, you
It's
can
in
describe
here,
it.
but
where-
I
yeah.
couldn't, I mean, we have a picture, but I wasn't sure exactly what it was.
Spaghetti Junction, the north side of that, northwest side of that intersection is my understanding of the lot they proposed.
The area where if you're coming up East Main, you would turn right on Versailles Road? Coming up Main that way, or which section?
Opposite of the cemetery.
It's
So the opposite
north.
side of East Main from the cemetery. There's a little access road that goes back behind Crestwood. I guess kind of this.
We'll pull it up here.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah. That would probably, but yeah, there's a vacant.
Is there?
Vacant lot right there on the.
It's the only vacant lot on that corner.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's not Frankfurt Cemetery, that's Evergreen Cemetery.
Right, Evergreen.
Yeah.
Or Green Hill.
Because I was gonna say, there's no lot back.
Yeah,
No.
different cemetery, sorry.
Yeah.
didn't
So
specify
my
that.
thought on that one is, it's very nice that it was proposed. We did want something visible to the public, but I don't think we want it that visible.
No.
I think we would get a lot of pushback.
There's some concern. Actually, we are not really the solar engineer at all, but solar can reflect the sunlight, particularly the traffic going north. When you have afternoon, sign can reflect to you. That's a very busy traffic area.
Plus, that's the place where all the political signs go during every season. I mean,
and
That
you know,
raises a good
I don't
question
know.
about approvals.
Is that right?
Do we need any approvals for construction?
is that city property or state property?
City.
City?
Yeah. I assume city, but I didn't check.
I mean, because there's a U.S. highway on one side of it.
City,
Just-
right. City, 3.5 acre, I understand.
Doesn't make sense.
You know, I was just mentioning to John, that seems like they would have much more commercial viability than just putting a solar array there. So I'm a little surprised by that. And I also like, I really think this is a really, really neat idea. And I've kind of been watching the sidelines, and Jason and Catherine really been taking the lead. But I'll tell you, I like the idea of having it here at our headquarters. I think it sends a message, and I think it sends a message to the community. And I think it's public enough, but out of the way enough not to be a nuisance to anyone or anything like that. And the traffic concern and how it might affect traffic might really be a concern. So, I think I kind of like having it here. So.
Steve, what do you think?
I like it here too.
Jason?
I think we got a good location. I think Gary made a good point about potential glare off the panels. That is a really busy intersection. Also, I think, I'm not sure who else may, but the commercial viability, it may not be commercial viable at this moment, but 10 years it could be. I hate to be competing with a commercial viability vacant lot that could be converted to something else and utilized for east side of town.
Absolutely.
So I like what John was just saying. I think behind our headquarters right there with the new Humane Society, with the state office building, with Commonwealth Credit Union, we're going to have plenty of visibility, but also it's out of the way. It's not really impacting anybody directly.
Any other questions on, excuse me?
I have one other.
Good, I can finish doing my homework.
No, the one other question I have is, there were some questions the board had on the evaluation. Do you want us to remove the evaluation point system? Cost is in there. Does the board want that removed?
No, I think the idea is, if it's cost efficiency and not merely cost. I mean, I think that gets at what Jason talked about is if somebody's going to try to pawn off cheap Chinese solar panels, that's not going to be cost efficient in the long run. So I think we've got plenty of leeway there. And, I like what Catherine said as well in terms of, we're going to negotiate, we'll come to terms, and here's a sample of a contract that we usually enter into, but, we'll just have to come to terms wherever we are. So it gives them, like I said, it gives them an idea of what kind of agreement we're going to have them enter into.
And just make sure hands from up. I mean, if you feel comfortable keeping it under firm fixed, but that it's, however you need to term it to make sure there's that flexibility built in there. And if we're not doing a fixed formula, where like quality's getting 60 points and then you're doing like an equation and coming out with the final score, that's where you get really locked in on firm fixed. But it doesn't sound like we're putting price in as a firm fixed.
No,
40%, right?
I think this will be, if I understand it correctly, this will be evaluated like everything, like the example, this company's proposed Chinese solar panels that are of lesser quality than this panel. And that's your justification for differentiating the
Right, but they could lowball the price and end up winning it anyway with inferior quality.
If you offer a low price and low quality.
I mean, if you do a firm fixed price contract where quality gets certain points, price gets certain points, somebody can lowball the price and knock the price down so low that it overcomes the fact that they had bad quality on the equation. And that's not the way this formula is going to work, right?
I don't think there's an equation.
Okay, that's what I was.
I don't believe there's an equation that it's just rough.
There were
rough
points
balance.
that totaled up to 100. We could leave the point system out, and we will evaluate the criteria set forth under the ones I read to you, and just leave the point system out.
Let's just do that.
I might do that and then
Let's
say you're going to
do
pick
that.
the best qualified bidder.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know that we've ever. I don't know that I've ever seen any like an actual equation where it's been boiled down like that's
Oh yeah,
more,
all the time.
yeah, all the time in state government.
more state government.
Yeah.
So the
From gravel to air filters to tires to yeah. Oh yeah.
everything's a little more sophisticated.
Yeah. That's why they spend a lot of time in protest.
That's
So, Travis, you know what you're doing?
I think so.
Okay. Go forth and do good then, buddy.
Will do, yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, next item, general manager comments, anything, Gary? Do we have any items for old or new business? Okay, that brings us to Mr. Snyder.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to request permission to call a closed session pursuant to KRS 61810-1C to discuss pending or proposed litigation regarding both cost recovery, regarding cost recovery, an OSHA matter, and a contract matter, as well as under KRS 61810-1G to discuss a specific proposal that, if openly discussed, would jeopardize the siting, retention, expansion, or upgrading of a business.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? We'll take we're going into closed session, and we'll come back in about 5 minutes. coming out of closed session. Do we have a motion to come out of closed session?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have a motion to adjourn? Oh, first, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Do we?
Jason hanging into the bitter end. I love it.
Do we?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 We're adjourned.
Thank you.